Hello, I'm Melissa Griffiths.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Utterly Unscripted. Today, I am joined by Melissa Griffiths. Hi there, Melissa. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me. I'm a trans female who lives in Melbourne. I share my story online and try and raise awareness about issues trans people face. And I think one of the most powerful things you can do to change society, to help understand trans people, is just, or whatever mission you've got in life, is just to share your story online, not only in the media, but on social media as well.
Yeah. And you are doing that. I follow you on Instagram and you're sharing quite a lot of your story. In fact, I don't want to say that you're brave, but you are sharing a lot of your story. And I find that actually inspirational more than anything. Can you tell me what made you decide to do that?
I think through all my experiences early on in life, in transitioning, I
Mm-hmm.
found that people didn't understand trans people. Going to a restaurant, getting called "sir," for example, and
Mm.
you know, because you still got a masculine voice, and I'm having voice surgery in October, and then obviously start voice lessons, but it just, you're going there dressed as a female, but people think it's just a joke or didn't understand, or so it just opened
Mm.
my eyes to the lack of awareness. Or going to the Melbourne Racing Club or Victoria Racing Club, like during Melbourne Cup Carnival. I
Yeah.
told them my transition back in 2015 and helped them get a gender identity policy introduced there, and later on at Melbourne Racing Club. But I got comments from people standing there with a friend, oh, it shouldn't be allowed, My friend calls it the lady clackhorns of the world, that sort of attitude.
Someone
Trans
actually
people,
said that?
yeah, standing there in the members, and heard someone saying to them, their mum shouldn't be allowed.
Oh. That's really interesting that I get. So was this back in the beginning sort
Yeah,
of?
back in 2015, and people
Yeah.
probably hadn't seen many trans people at the races, or let alone in the members. So, uh,
Well,
uh,
actually, even back in 2015, it probably was quite unusual to see openly trans people. If we think about it, really, as much as I hate to say it, um, what is that? Caitlyn Jenner was really
yes,
the first real publicly open transgender person, as
yeah,
in who got heaps of media attention and started opening people's eyes
yeah,
to just reality, really. Because
mm,
I have a friend who is trans. I
mm,
actually don't ever say that because she's just my friend, and you wouldn't know people. So you're saying, it's just not allowed. I don't know if she even comes across any of that. We've never experienced that
yeah.
in public, so I feel like that is really unacceptable, that someone is even saying something like it shouldn't be allowed. Who are you to say that?
Wow, it's back in 2015, and you're in the members area, so
Yeah.
only certain type of people should be there. That's sort of that person's attitude, I guess, and it's only one person.
Yeah.
But apart from that,
Do you still come across that now, though?
you still sort of get people with, like, one day I didn't wear makeup, and you can see walking down the street someone having a giggle to themselves. They don't say anything to you, but you know,
No. So but
and
you
because
notice it, though?
yeah, I pick up on it. I'm an empath, so um,
Yeah.
my upbringing wasn't the best. Been dipped underwater as a kid and bullied and shy child, so
Jesus.
family life wasn't always great. Parents fighting, so
Yeah.
I guess
Do you
I was.
think that played any part in your gender affirming decision?
I think I always knew I was different to the boys when I played with my girl cousins, but didn't understand back 40 odd years
Yeah.
ago.
Yeah.
No internet, what was going on, and
No.
then because you have childhood trauma, I think you become more aware of your surroundings, so you become an empath, partially because of that, and partially because you're
Yeah.
spiritual. So if that makes sense, so you're
Yes, it does. Yeah.
more aware of
Yeah, and I've
people around.
heard that actually, that people who have the trauma, and especially people who have come from a childhood where, they may have had a parent who was abusive, or there were a situation not necessarily abusive, even just having a mother or a father who might come home after work and they were particularly grumpy all the time or something
Yeah,
like that, that children learn behaviors that tune in their empathic ability, because you start noticing behavior patterns and you
you
protect
do.
yourself,
You
and
do.
then you start picking that up from other people as well.
Yeah, you naturally pick it up now. Yeah, that's right. Naturally see
Yeah.
it. Very
Yeah.
conscious where you are.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? So this obviously was in a time where you had no internet, and I mean, I can relate to that as well, going through my own sexual identity, not having any internet. I couldn't Google anything. Kids these days are really very lucky, because for me, I had to my personal experience was I had to go to the library,
Yeah,
and back in those days, it was books. That was
yeah,
how we got our information, was from
that's right.
was from books. There
Books.
was
Yeah,
there was no internet.
right.
Yeah. And my school library was a Catholic school, so they didn't have anything about anything like that. So there was no talk of homosexuality or anything other than what the Bible, let's say Bible, what the Bible was teaching them. I felt that it was maybe a misunderstanding on their part, and that led me down this path of looking for more information. And so for me, I had to go on the bus. It was a 2-hour bus ride to go to back then it was called the Gay Men's Counseling Service, and they had a library
Yeah,
which had certain books that were available that were able to help me. These days, kids don't understand that 2 hours on a bus to go and find a book, to borrow the book for 2 weeks and then have to bring it back. You could get everything online. So
yeah.
when you were deciding to go through this gender affirming process, what were how did you do what was it that you said, hold on a second, this is my true self, Melissa is my true self?
For years and years, I've just been living part time, trying to hide it from people. So you live a double life, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And also figuring out my sexuality and realizing I'm bisexual. So figuring that out at the same time. So it's like a long journey. But I guess seeing the
Mm.
baby dying made me realize it's time to be my true self. So then telling people at work I'm transitioning and then going through that process and getting interesting questions from people during that time about what bra size I would be, or whether I have a boyfriend or girlfriend was quite interesting. So
Was that at work?
yeah, so it's just,
Yeah, wow.
but I know a lot of trans people face issues and helping trash this
Yeah.
fight through the Me Too stuff. People told me their stories, and I was just a bit horrified the way they get treated when they go for employment opportunities,
Yes.
and the way people think, oh, is this a joke sort of thing, because they turn up as a female because they're older trans, so they obviously may not look feminine enough. So
Yeah,
there's
yeah.
all sorts of issues that aren't really talked about, and you tell people, and they're just shocked because we don't have a voice in the media, so per se in the mainstream media. So and we just get well of late. You would be aware, obviously,
Yeah.
trans they're getting pretty much.
Well, it's getting there. We seem to be seeing more. There is more representation now.
Yeah,
It's
there is.
still not enough, because
No.
I feel the same thing with gay and lesbian, bisexual imagery. I do feel as though there's still not enough
Oh no,
there,
in the
but
media there's not a lot. So
no. But then again, with Netflix, Hulu,
oh, Netflix, yeah,
excuse
definitely,
me, Netflix is so, they're not as restricted as, say, in Australia, we have channel 10, 9, 7,
yeah,
etc. For those that are in the US, they don't understand that, but we have free to air channels. And I do find that the representation is lacking
it is, yeah,
in
definitely,
that respect. I reckon Neighbours maybe was the real trailblazer.
yeah, definitely.
Neighbours Home and Away, I guess, maybe. I don't watch. either of them, so I'm not entirely sure. But it has been a long time since I watched Neighbours, and now I heard that they'd finished. So,
They're finished. Yeah.
how did you feel about these people who felt that, because you just said something that people were asking you your bra size.
Mm,
Excuse me, I'm sorry to cough. Um, you had people asking your bra size, and you had people asking you questions that we would never dream of asking somebody who was a cis female those
yeah.
questions.
Yeah. Well, that was.
How do people think that that's appropriate?
I don't know. People were just curious, and you're still going dressed as a male because you haven't transitioned yet fully at that
Yeah.
time. But then outside work, you get people. When you're living your true self outside work before you start to go to work full time, you get people
Mm,
staring at you. You go out for dinner with a friend, and a couple next door stare at you, and I can pick up on the vibe, and or just
yeah.
aggressive behaviour. If you order a drink, you go to a bar by yourself. And back then, I was probably wearing a wig of some description. So
Okay.
yeah, and yeah, just it's a big journey, and then trying to get approval to go into hormones and stuff like that. So
Can you
through
talk about that? Do you want to talk about that process? Like, because it's not just about the society side of things. There is your personal side of things, because I know that there are trans people who just decide that they're going to live their true self as a female. They don't do the things that you do. You're sharing all of this on Instagram. So things like the laser hair removal, the voice surgery, the hormones, things like that. So do you feel that that is just part of your journey, or are you doing that to feel more validated? That might be a difficult question.
I started sharing the story back in 2017 and started doing stuff in the media, and I thought at the time I was just trying to raise awareness because of the
Mm,
experiences I'd had at that time, and I guess it just evolved, and I started speaking and at events, and it just evolved over time, if that makes sense. So
yeah.
I remember speaking to Andy Medic, who's got a trans child, and he said sometimes the role fools you. You don't seek out the role. It just, and I guess like 5 years I've been going over 5 years. So I guess it just evolves naturally, and sharing the story on LinkedIn and building up my. And I know back in 2017, I built up my LinkedIn connections up to like 18,000 in 6 months. So just sharing positive quotes, figuring out what the hell I'm doing, how to
Yeah.
raise awareness, etc. So, um, but
So
people
that's
get
actually been your way of finding acceptance for yourself in yourself. That
as
really
well as
sounds like you weren't looking for outside acceptance. It was just figuring out what you were doing.
yeah, figuring out how to make it easier for other trans people as well, so they don't have to go through the stuff
Yeah.
I went through. And so yeah, so people can connect to that you're just not doing, you're being vulnerable and natural and whatever. And so
Mm.
just grew over time, and then just kept getting up early, the odd early time for an online blog show in Tampa, Florida, at like 3 in the morning. Doing
Oh,
an
Jesus.
interview.
I know all about those early mornings.
So, yeah, more coffee, thanks. Yeah, so
Yes.
it just sort of, I guess, the role just landed on me, and it's not something that necessarily asked for. And then connecting, sharing my story on different Facebook groups, then you sort of start going out, and people sort of recognise you in the public eye when you go out just doing your shopping at High Point or whatever. So yeah, sort of
Mm.
just evolved naturally. I didn't really ask for it, but these things happen, I
It just
guess.
happened. Yeah. And how has that been? You and I were talking, and you said that you still get people jeering at you in the street, or you still find that there's the negativity, but has it changed at all? Do you feel as though the work you're doing is changing anything?
Slowly, I think it's still a lot of people still, unfortunately, with Catherine Deves and the FINA decision, I think that's set back trans rights a
Mm,
bit, and it's made it a very divisive issue at the moment. And I think some people think it's okay to be transphobic again because of
mm.
that sort of those sort of decisions and what, and like whilst I understand what FINA are doing, yeah, just maybe the way they went about it wasn't the best, I don't think. And
For
Catherine
those
Deves.
who are listening and don't understand, can you just explain that? Is
FINA
that
is a swimming body, which just basically said uh, well, basically, you would have to start your transition at a very young age to be on hormones at a very young age, which is practically impossible because they
Mm,
they may start HRT at a young age, but they probably won't start the full blockers till later on until
mm.
you've gone through the appropriate treatment, and basically just means cisgender women will compete in those sort of sports only, and that's it. So,
Yeah. Yeah. Is that Australia only?
I'll look it up. I think that would
Because
be.
I have heard of that, and I'm sure that other people have, but just in case there's anybody who is listening that didn't understand what exactly was going on. And of course, then we have other things where it seems as though I don't want to say authority figures, but the people that are in charge of making rules want to make it
They're the,
harder.
they're the international body that make the rules. So,
It is international body.
yeah, effectively, you would have to
So this
fully.
is everywhere.
Effectively, you would have to fully transition before you're 12 years old, and that's not going to happen with any.
I mean, how is that going? How will that
That
happen?
would
And
happen, No,
yeah,
I don't think I would know any responsible surgeon that would have gender reassignment surgeon on someone 10 or 11. No way. So
10 or 11 years old. But also, why don't you just let kids be kids and,
I know
allow them to explore who they are
that's
without
right.
having to put all of that, what I call medical pressure?
Well, it won't happen. The reality, that's not going to
No,
happen. So
no, no. And I don't know any parent that would probably allow that to happen
I
anyway.
don't
I
think it
mean,
would be
that
allowed
just
anyway. You wouldn't. No
no.
surgeon would operate on someone that young. So
It doesn't. I know that you and I, we sit here and we say, "Oh, that's never going to happen." But then, of course, we see things like Roe v.
it
Wade
will
being
never happen
overturned
because
in
they're
the
so
US,
young.
and
Yeah.
all these stupid decisions because it's cis men, it's cis straight white men who are making these decisions, and they have absolutely no clue. They
No.
have no concept of reality,
Yeah.
which seems to actually be where all of these decisions come from come from.
Yeah.
But hey, if a teenager, if a guy, a guy or a girl is deciding that, hey, actually this is who I am, and they want to, of course I completely support the decision for them to be who they are. You I don't know, it's not even your place to say anything.
Yeah. Yeah.
But what about, so now, so you are now living as your true self all the time,
Yeah.
including in your work.
Yeah.
And what are you doing? Because you've got a website that talks about, you do public speaking engagements, and you actually help companies to create transgender friendly policies.
Yeah. I've done a bit
But
of consult.
what is the purpose?
I think it's just to help them be aware of trans inclusion in the workplace, and like I've done a bit of consulting. I've done a heap this year, but I'm doing a bit at the moment. But it's just making
Hmm.
them getting their terminology right, and for whatever settings they need it for, whatever workplace
Yeah.
environment they need it for, and because of COVID, I guess that's sort of all finished. I only did a bit of online speaking, and now we're coming
Yeah.
out.
Yeah.
COVID started to do a few speaking events earlier this year on certain days, but once again, it's only certain days that relate to trans, and then outside that, it's sort of hard to get to speak at a normal event, and that's the challenge. Anyone that
Mm.
speaks from our community, from the LGBTIQA plus community faces, is actually speaking in a normal event. As opposed, we'll just get Melissa in for Ida Hobbit Day or whatever particular day it is, Transgender Day Remembrance. So it's sort of, there's still a lot of barriers to break down, I think, and
Yeah, because
yeah,
you should be speaking all the time, not just on those
yeah,
on the
exactly. That's the thing. And, or
excuse
they
me,
don't,
just on those days.
or they don't want to pay. Oh, can you just come here and speak and not pay me? I'm not a
Mm.
charity.
And yeah, why? What is that mentality about? Is it that they feel that you should just do it?
We're,
You should just be
we're,
doing it because of what it is?
I don't know. Or you say, I want 1,500 or 2,000 to go to Sydney. Oh, I didn't think we'd have to pay that much. You can see, they don't say it, but you can see the ticking over, or, oh, we've got someone
Yeah.
else for free or for next to nothing.
Uh-huh.
You know what I mean? I know during the LGBTI leadership program, uh, I spoke to a lady who was part of the group, and she said, "Oh yeah, and same in the regional area. Just she was openly bi and just, oh yeah, can you speak at this event?" But they won't pay her. Like, why not?
Yeah, I don't understand that mentality at all.
Um,
Can you tell us then, as part of your work, so when you're going into a business and you're helping, but what are things, so people who are listening at home, and there may be people who possibly don't know that they've been, I don't know what the right word is without being insensitive. And I don't want to be
mhm.
insensitive. I'm just trying to
That's right.
think of the right way to do it. But let's just put it in a lay term, that there may be someone who doesn't know that they've been around somebody who is living as a transgender person.
That's right. There
I
may
know
be,
it happens. Yeah,
of course, there
it
might be some.
happens,
It does happen, and then there might be someone who's transitioned from female to male and comes to a new workplace and doesn't want to tell anyone.
and
You
don't
know.
want to. They don't want to
Yeah.
talk about it. In fact, I was working with a guy, it's a long time ago, back in 2001. So it's a long time ago. And he was transitioning from female to male. Everyone just assumed that he was female,
Mm,
wrongly.
yeah.
Wrongly, but I asked the question and we became friends. And
Yeah.
so I actually, funny enough, in Sydney, I worked with quite a few people who were trans.
Yeah.
They were transgender, either male to female or female to male, but they were who they were. And I don't know why I feel or think so differently
Mm,
to other people.
mm.
But if you were talking to somebody who maybe didn't know that they'd been around someone who was transgender and maybe didn't know how to act properly, in 2022, what is the acceptable way of handling, you know,
Oh, just
I'm thinking too much about it. I'm trying to be
you
politically
don't
correct and
overthink
I
it.
don't,
Just,
yeah, I don't
just,
want to overthink it, but
just,
yeah,
just be a friend. Just be, hi, how you going? Don't ask
yeah,
personal questions. If they feel comfortable enough, they'll open up to you. If they're transitioning from
yeah,
female to male, and eventually, obviously, if they're an employer, eventually they'll probably have to tell they'll probably tell the team in the appropriate manner. Until that happens, just treat them as the way they're,
yeah.
and if the other way, like,
So
don't
that's where
ask
I
questions.
come from.
Yeah,
Yeah. That's where I come from. So that's why I don't know how to say it properly. I don't know
just treat
what
them
is
like
it I'm
a human
trying to
being.
say. Yeah.
How's it going,
Yeah, you're
Jesse?
just another human. Just a
Yeah,
human.
yeah, no. Right. Oh, hello,
And
Jesse.
by the way, inappropriate questions. You say inappropriate questions.
What could be,
Inappropriate questions are asking, what is your bra size? Inappropriate
or
questions are asking things like, do you still have your penis? Like, that's none of your business.
or Jesse, why are you wearing a dress today? Like, you don't
Yeah.
ask.
Yeah.
Why you come to work wearing a dress? Is this a laugh? You don't say that. You just say, "Oh, hi, Jesse. How's
No.
it going?" But that's all.
Yes,
See the difference.
exactly. Just
See the difference.
respect. Yeah.
See the
Respect
difference
that
in my
that's my
example.
decision.
My example. And just say, "Oh, hi, Jesse. How's it going?" And don't ask why are you wearing a dress. It's none of your damn business. Like
Exactly.
I'm just, if you were transitioning from male to female, started coming to work
Even
as a
if you weren't
female.
actually, Melissa, I find that we see this more and more often. There are actually cis males and cis females who dress so they're gender fluid. So
That's right.
that's a whole other thing as well, gender fluidity, where, I might wake up today and feel female.
Mm,
As far as, let's just talk about the two gender, male and female.
mm.
And I know that that's not appropriate, but let for this example, without complicating it too much, there are people who do that.
I've met gender fluid people. I met someone who's gender fluid, transgender fluid. I met someone, a female, who's gender fluid as well. So on face
Yeah,
value, she's
yeah.
a female. You wouldn't think she was gender fluid, but she is. So
No.
because the day
One of my
dressed like a female.
cousin's kids, I think, went to school wearing a dress, and he was bullied relentlessly. And I just
Yeah,
think that is so wrong. He's only 8 or 9 years old, but he wanted to wear nail polish and he wanted to wear a dress,
yeah,
And I have a very close friend, and her child, he's about 8 or 9, and he too is having these gender identity things. He feels comfortable wearing
Yes.
girls' clothes.
Yeah.
So what we traditionally in society see as a girl's clothes, which is a dress or a blouse or bras or wigs or whatever, but God, just let people be what they want to be.
That's right.
I
Exactly.
don't
Yeah.
understand why anyone even has to think anything more about it. Okay, you don't want to do it. Don't fucking do it.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's so
Exactly.
easy just to say, okay, I'm not doing it.
Yeah. People don't think. I don't think. Just don't think
No,
they'll. You may not like it, but you don't have to say anything.
you don't have to say everything that pops into your brain. Not everything that comes into your head needs to make its way out of your
That's
mouth.
right.
Melissa, tell me about pronouns because this is a big thing right now. This is something that maybe doesn't affect you personally, but have you come across it where people don't know which pronouns to use for you?
I think it's harder for those that are non-binary in terms of pronouns, like having pronoun
Yeah.
badges. I talked to one employer recently, having and at Gordon Tafe where I spoke, importance of having pronoun badges, and they had ally badges there, so that
Yeah.
if someone is non-binary, the pronouns are they and them, so you know, and or if it's uh,
Hmm.
he, him, or her, she, sort of thing. So then
Yeah.
you know gives you an idea. Well, then you wearing a pronoun badge, you just respect them for how they're identifying. So
Yeah. In real life, though, we don't walk around with a
no,
pronoun
we don't.
badge.
That's real life. We don't. But yeah, real
Yeah.
life. We don't. So um, it just make it easier to say, oh, hi Jesse, my pronouns are he, him, and then if you say it first, and the other person might say, oh, hi, my name's Kim, my pronouns are they, them. I'm non-binary, so
Yeah. Yeah.
see how
What
easy
do
it
you
can
think
be.
is where do you think society is going as far as like the pronoun thing?
I
Because
don't
I
think
don't do that. I don't introduce
nobody
myself.
does
Hi,
that.
I'm Jesse and I'm he, him.
Yeah. No, that's right. Nobody does. I mean, because you just oh, there's Jesse. You know, they
Should we?
wouldn't. I think we should, because then what if you were non-binary? You go,
Yes.
oh hi Jesse, how you going?
Yeah. Yeah.
Why are you wearing a dress today? Sort of thing.
Yes.
Coming back. You know, even and without introducing your pronouns, then oh yeah, I get it. So
Yeah.
then it also prevents all the then it carries on all the questions and oh he
Yeah.
transitioned.
The awkward.
Yeah, you know what I mean.
Yeah.
I'm just using that as an
Because
example.
that's the other thing. Somebody who is using certain pronouns doesn't necessarily need to be transitioning. You call it transitioning. Do you like that word though?
Oh, I sort of it's a love hate relationship because some trans females just don't have any medical intervention. They just live as females,
Yeah.
so that's their choice. So everyone,
Without the gender
with,
affirming surgery.
yeah, without any surgery or even maybe not even taking HRT. Everyone's different on the scale of what surgery they have or don't have, and
Yeah.
that's their choice. Don't go around
Oh,
asking them
absolutely.
why haven't had your
Do you
boobs
get that a lot though?
done. No,
Yeah.
not really. Now I don't really get that a lot, but obviously
Not so much.
it's harder, I guess, if you've got a masculine face. Um, for society to sort of get their
But
head
then
around.
again, do you know, I've met some cis females who have very masculine features
That's right, exactly. Yeah,
and no one says anything to them.
I know. It's just oh, in the street because I've only started facial hair removal recently, and so still have to shave. But you see some young guy just from I don't know, maybe from country, maybe he's never seen a trans person before. You can hear as you get on the tram. Oh, he's got a moustache, and I've got boobs. Like,
Yeah,
really?
yeah.
So
Ugh. Like if it's somebody who maybe hasn't had that exposure before, but
I
that
haven't.
is not an excuse. You
That's right.
know, these days, especially even in the country, I live in the country. I live on a 13-acre farm. I still have access to the internet. I still have access to Netflix and, newspapers. We're not completely cut off from the world, so I don't know if that's just him
It's
being
like
a
you said,
dick or
people just don't think they're inert.
yeah.
Stephen King
Because
said
it's maybe not in their world.
it's not in their world, so they say you can hear it as you get on the tram behind you. talking with a friend, thinking you're out of earshot. He's got a moustache. It's like, yeah. And Stephen King
Yeah.
said 95% of people are nerd, and that's probably the first thing that's popped into their little brain, and they say it without thinking even to their girlfriend or
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, I get it. In fact, there's another example, which I have personally come across because I'm not transgender, so I don't think I have people talking about me like that. I don't care. Um, but when people speak other languages
Yeah,
and they think you should never talk. Listen, the lesson here is don't talk about people
that's right.
as if they can't hear you.
That's
So,
right.
but I've had it before where I'm bilingual.
Mm,
And I was in Sydney on a bus. I was doing a tour. I think I was there with some people, and we were going around to Bondi Beach and whatever. So it was a bus full of tourists. It was specifically
mm,
tickets for this trip. And there was a lady who was talking, and she was chatting about myself and my two cousins who we were
mm,
with, and maybe some friends. I'm not even sure. It's not important. But she was talking in Dutch, and she was being a bitch. Um,
mm,
as she was being quite nasty. And I just waited and I listened and I said to my cousin, I said, I know what they're saying.
mm,
Like I can understand them. And later, once she'd finished talking her shit, I
mm,
responded to her and told her to have a lovely day in Dutch, and the look of horror on her face. And I kind of feel like people who are in your situation, not your situation, but people like yourself who's also hearing, you're also hearing people talk about you. I, I, I am uncomfortable for you. I
mm.
find it so inappropriate. But I
Yeah,
would
well,
just love to be able to say something to them to make them completely horrified that
mm,
either you heard, you heard
yeah,
them or you understood them
no,
or
no,
something.
yeah, yeah, that's right. And you sort of think, oh well, he'll say it
Yeah.
next time. He'll say it, and you'll be in earshot, and you say you'll be able to say something like "Have a
Yeah.
lovely day."
Yeah.
Like I said, just turn around and say "Have a lovely day," and there'll be a look of horror on their face, and then you hop on the tram and you go on your
Yeah.
go on your merry way. So
Get on your merry way and then you're smiling for
yeah,
the rest of the day. Yeah.
and then standing there
Like I
stuck.
said, it's just so I just find I'm baffled by it. I really am. I'm baffled by it. I
That
am
person.
completely offended for other people who are talking about people. I've met cis women who have beards. Like it's it for them to then be
I've
talking about,
seen
oh,
women
look at
with,
that woman with a moustache.
I've seen women who've got hair on their arms or legs, and
Hairy arms. Yeah.
yeah, no one says anything.
Now, back at school, I went to school with a girl who had very hairy arms and very hairy legs. She was a Polish girl
Mm,
and was relentlessly bullied by other kids because she was so hairy. But I just always thought, I don't know if it's because I was gay growing up in a Catholic school. So I had been relentlessly bullied throughout school anyway, even with people not knowing, they didn't know my sexuality, but
mm,
they still bullied me as if they did. I mean, I didn't know it. How did they know?
mm.
But she was relentlessly bullied for having hairy arms and hairy
Yeah.
legs. It's not her
Mm.
bloody fault.
That's right.
It's
Yeah.
not. Yeah, I think people. So, is that what you said? You're setting out to sort of help companies, but really, do you feel like you have a responsibility? I don't think you do, but do you think you have a responsibility to make people understand a little bit more?
To a certain extent, but I think people have got to educate themselves as well. And I think
Yeah.
you share enough of a story on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, and somebody recognized me from Twitter, and it just that person said, "Oh, I don't see you as much on Twitter." I said, "Yeah, well, a bit of self care, love. I am
Mm,
working as
yeah.
well." And oh, and they just didn't even realize, oh, all the glamour, all the lights, and it's like, no, I just take pictures at home. Like you just,
All the
you're
glamour
telling
and the
about people
lights.
can't think. No, I don't have a studio where I take all my photos.
Is that what they think?
They must, because yeah, I must imagine setting up the lights, glamour, and it's just like. Yeah, the
What
people
kind
think.
of world are these people coming from?
I think
I
the
don't
problem with
understand that at
social
all.
media, it was a good idea, but also unfortunately, it's maybe degraded some people's thinking power.
Yeah. Yeah. Interesting. Um, excuse me. Can you tell me about the Australian LGBTI awards because you were a finalist in that? How did that come about?
Oh, that was the last. I think it was the last one they had. Got nominated for that for the hero category. I think Georgie Stone won the category, but so I went up to Sydney for the weekend, sat at the same
Hmm.
table as Ian Thorpe, so had a chat to him. So spent he's a really lovely guy, very quiet, nice guy. So yeah,
Yeah.
that was really
We have
enjoyable.
we have 56% of our listeners are in the US. So for those who don't know, Ian Thorpe is a championship swimmer. He was in our 2000 Olympic swimming team. So he's an Australian swimmer. What is he doing now actually? You don't hear anything from him anymore.
No, I think he's quite happy away from the limelight now, and occasionally
Yeah.
he'll when the religious bill comes out, he'll come out and say something like he did earlier this year. That was sort of all squashed.
Mm-hmm.
So he still does his thing. Still when he has to, he'll be an activist when he has to.
Well, that's good. At least he's out there. So what are these awards and why were you nominated?
Well, they don't exist anymore, but they were just
Oh, don't they? Oh, okay.
yeah. Um, the two people that ran it sort of had a bit of a disagreement, so they stopped having them. Uh,
Oh, okay.
they were just awards for people in various categories that are doing raising awareness or doing good things in the community around LGBTIQs A plus stuff.
Hmm.
So whether it be in the
Specifically.
media, media, or or those that
Hmm.
are
Hmm.
elders in the community getting recognised. So, yeah.
Mm, mm. And so, and part of what you do, we've talked very briefly about this. You have a day job, but you are also helping companies to develop policy, implement policy for transgender employees.
Yeah, and that could be just something as simple as a training module, just getting the language right. And I've put some
Yeah,
one page on my website as well for just for small business to help around diversity and inclusion as well. So, and
yeah,
then it's just a matter of getting more consulting work in the future to move away from my day job. And obviously, that's a transition in itself, if you like, trying to transition away and
mm,
finding that work and in a
yeah,
recession. So it's sort of companies don't want to spend the money. So yeah,
yeah. Good luck.
and eventually it'll happen. It's just slowly,
Yeah.
slowly. Yeah,
Is it being picked up because you write on your website also that you had a lot to do with the racing clubs and
Cricket
things like that.
Australia,
So
Cricket Australia helped them with me and Kate McGregor helped with their gender diverse policy around inclusion for gender diverse and trans people in cricket. So we
yeah.
went to a few sessions
Okay.
for them to consult to them about that. So we talked
What
about them.
is but how has that been impacted with, the sports thing, and do you think that that's going to play a part in what you're doing?
I think so. It sort of makes them more aware, and when you talk to an organisation of language and inclusion and pronouns and how to treat someone and just treat them with respect and just keep it basic and simple. I think people try to overcomplicate a lot of things, whereas as we
I think
discussed
so too.
earlier,
I could totally relate to that only because now I'm talking to you, but it's funny. You have been introduced to me as somebody who is specifically transgender. If I had just met you,
mm,
say, we'd been out at the pub or whatever, and
mm,
I had just met you, I feel as though my thought patterns would be different. Like I said,
yeah,
my best friend is transgender, but I don't
mm,
even think about that.
that's right. Yeah,
And in
yeah,
fact, she says it sometimes. She says things to me sometimes, she and I have a very inappropriate relationship, but
mm.
we're best friends. We've been friends for a really long time, but she will say things to me sometimes, and I go, "Oh yeah, you used to be a boy." In fact, she's a little older. She's a little bit older than me, but she went to the same school as I did. So we went to the same primary school. She was there right at the end of when they had nuns and
Yeah,
things like that at the school. So her experience was a little bit different to me because we didn't have nuns when I went to the school. But I see photos of her as him. What he what he was when he was a child, when he grew up. But I don't associate that with her.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
so when I'm trying to think of having a conversation with somebody and I want it to be meaningful, I want it to be enlightening and educational, but I don't want it to be offensive. And I found myself thinking of things where I thought, actually, I think that's really offensive because I would never ask her questions
Yeah,
like that. So that may be something else that people need to be aware of, maybe,
yeah.
that
Be aware of what they're saying and just
yeah,
talk to them, treat them as a person. Or did you see that
like you
movie?
said, just be normal. Just be
Yeah.
just be normal. Again, inappropriate questions are what's your bra size? And,
Or how many
I
how
mean,
many boyfriends have you got, Jesse? My
is it
neighbour told me
really?
you got 5 boyfriends. That's inappropriate. You know what I mean? Asking that sort of question.
Because I
Like
would not
so.
accept that even without being
Exactly,
transgender. Yeah.
exactly. Yeah, you know what I mean. So don't ask it.
Yeah. The key there is, would you like to be asked this question?
Exactly. Would you like me to
If
ask you?
you would find that question inappropriate, or if you would be offended by someone asking you the same question, then it
Don't
is
ask.
inappropriate.
Exactly. Oh, I'm
Yeah.
wearing blue knickers today. I'm just sharing that.
Although actually, I have to say, I do share the color of my underwear quite often. I don't know why. I don't I do not know why, but it seems to be a conversation that happens quite often that, the underwear, and I don't care. I'm shameless. I don't give a shit. Which may be also why I don't think in a different way, where it means nothing to me.
That's right. Yeah,
Yeah. Can
yeah,
we talk very quickly about terminology?
yep,
Because that, I think, that does change the conversation with
yeah.
people a little bit.
Does.
So, you've said be normal, just have a normal conversation, but there is terminology that is appropriate,
Yeah.
offensive, etc. What should people be saying? What should they not be saying? And how can we change the way our minds work? How can we change that thought pattern so that we are using appropriate
I
terminology?
think regardless of your sexuality, just try and treat someone as a person, and then obviously in the environments where people are telling each other if they're poly or bi, that'll come up naturally as well.
What
And
did you say? Poly?
poly, yeah.
I've never heard that.
So people that might have more than one partner, and there's also people that might be
Oh,
in.
I see. Oh, I say sorry. Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
I have heard that. Yeah. That's a new one to me too.
Or people that might be in a quad or throuple type relationship. So there's all those sort of scenarios as well.
Yeah.
But so it's just
Yeah. I
being
I
aware of
I don't
being
is
aware
it
of who
my
you like.
age, do you think?
Eh? Yeah,
Is it my age, like,
being aware of
the
where you are
whole terminology stuff?
a little bit, and it's just being aware of where you are, and just
Yeah.
recognizing if someone self-identifies as a lesbian or queer, that you sort of just have a basic understanding of it. You don't have to pry into that, but
No, no, no. Well, to be honest, I don't wanna know. I
yeah,
I mean, that's me personally, do you know what I mean? I don't give
yeah,
a shit what you do in your own house. I don't give a shit what you do outside of your house as long as it's not hurting anybody,
that's right. Yeah.
'cause that, of course, then is a society issue.
Mm.
But do you also find that within the LGBTIQA plus community that there are issues, especially with transgender identity?
Sometimes, yeah, you might get someone that sort of looks at you that sort of has a smirk on their face or doesn't accept you within the community. There's transphobia
And these are people in the community. So
within
these
a
are also people who are looking for acceptance within their own community or looking for acceptance outside of their community, and they still have this bias or this
yes,
weird
phobia, yeah, transphobia, yeah,
a phobia. Yeah.
yeah.
Why is it phobia?
Oh, the fear. I think that just
They
makes
don't
them.
know.
They don't know. Yeah, that's it. They don't know. So they turn that into laughter and whatever reaction,
Yeah.
but really that's out of fear, not love, if that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah. And I guess sometimes too, though, those reactions are not out of hatred either. That's something
No,
else that we need to be aware of. I'm not saying that if you laugh at somebody, if you're in the street and you're laughing at somebody, it's not necessarily because they're being hateful. They're
no,
being ignorant, but they're
yeah,
not being hateful. So it doesn't
that's right.
always come from a place of hate or
Okay.
negativity. Yeah. We just very briefly talked about the whole transition word that while we're talking about terminology, that particular terminology. What do you prefer?
I guess I am sort of transitioning, and it's a journey in itself. But I think just
Yeah.
prefer to treat me as I am, as Melissa, and that's it.
Yeah.
I don't, that's my personal journey, and I share some of that obviously as I go along with whatever surgery I decide to have or not to have, and I share that as I go along
And
to
you
make
do, you
it
do
work.
share it. You're quite open and honest about it. People can go by. I don't have your Instagram here, but I believe from your website they can go
Yeah,
to
yep, yeah. It's
everywhere else from there.
Instagram. It's just at Melissa C Griffiths. So it's just
Melissa
like
C. Griffiths. Are
at
you
Melissa.
linked from your website to there?
Yeah, there's link. Yeah, there's links to Facebook
Yeah.
and LinkedIn as well, all the Facebook pages. So
Awesome. All right. So melissagriffiths.com.au to have a look because you do share a lot of what you call
oh
your
yeah,
journey.
did a modelling course recently and shared that as well. So that was good to
Yeah.
do. Done a bit of
That's
modelling
awesome.
before, so anything
And
to
when
break
you are
that barrier.
talking about it with other people, do you use the word transition?
Generally, I don't talk about it too much with other
You
people.
don't.
If people want to, you're speaking at an event, you might mention it, but
Yeah.
just depends what you're talking about, I guess. Whether you're talking about gender diversity policy or whether you're talking about your journey. So you might,
Yeah.
just depends on the situation with
Well,
it.
because also it's not really anyone's business either. If
No,
somebody is going to have surgery or whatever they're deciding. I heard gender affirming surgery. I actually really like that word.
yeah, yeah,
I feel like it's much more polite. It's nicer than they're having, you know,
real.
they're transitioning or they're having gender reassignment surgery because it's not a reassignment. You are finding your true self.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
What you're doing is making the outside match what you feel inside,
Yeah,
what you
yeah,
feel is you.
and
So
that's
reassignment is not the right word.
that looks different for every trans person. Next trans
Yeah,
person.
that's right. Like you said, not everybody goes through surgery to have bottom surgery or top surgery or whatever, whichever surgery they may decide to have or not have. Not everybody
Sure.
goes through that.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
I find that really very interesting. People can go to your website, they can have a look. Now, you're still doing speaking engagements?
Yeah, I haven't got anything booked at the moment. I've got voice surgery coming up, but yeah, I'm doing
Oh yeah,
going.
what is that? What's voice surgery?
So it's the Yusun method. So they'll sort of shorten your vocal cord, and
Oh,
shave my Adam's apple. I can't talk for about 9 days afterwards, 19 days afterwards. So
are you a big talker?
yeah, I like talking, so it'd be strange. The whiteboard
So
marker.
it's gonna be nuts. Yeah.
He's already writing rude words on it already, practicing. Because when I
Practicing. Good, good, good. I don't know how I would go. 9 days not talking after is gonna be difficult.
yeah,
So
so
that's obviously that's a process for you as well. So what will that do for you that will make your voice more feminine?
wow, you still have to have voice lessons to make it more feminine, but it's obviously trying to change your pitch. So and
Oh,
it
is
was
it?
interesting
Oh.
when I was doing the lesson. When you hold your jaw, it was easier to do than making certain sounds. I said, "Oh, we make the voice person, speech pathologist said, oh, we make you do funny things here, make funny sounds, but it's trying to feminize and change your pitch." So I found by holding the jaw like
Right.
I demonstrated, it was easier to do rather than not holding the jaw because you're not used to trying to start doing these exercises. So it's interesting in itself, just learning about it. And she recorded my pitch. They need to know that for surgery, what my baseline is. So it's really interesting.
Okay.
Show the graph and to make some funny sounds like,
Wow.
like this. But sort of start low and go high and record that to help figure out what your pitch is at the moment. So
Yeah.
that's interesting.
how long have you been going? How long have you been preparing for this particular surgery?
I've only just started sort of organising
Oh,
everything,
okay.
getting
Yeah.
putting in get money out of super because it costs quite a bit of money. So
And I guess not covered by anything. It's not covered
nope,
by the government. No.
breast surgery
Is
wasn't covered.
anything anymore? For my friend who transitioned, no, not transitioned. I don't like that word. My best friend who we're talking about, her surgery was covered by Medicare.
Yeah, no, well, that's good. Breast surgery wasn't for me. Might get something back for the hospital or part of the voice surgery, which is good. But
Yeah.
the other
Yeah.
surgery, I don't know whether I get anything back.
So private health, nothing, those kinds of
Private health,
things are not
it's,
covered.
I think private with voice surgery do two-way claim with Medicare and private health, so get something back from Medicare and something back from private health insurance. They couldn't make it any more complicated, could they? Have to do a two-way claim.
Of course. Of course. Those kinds of things have to change, I think.
Oh, it's very
That
stressful.
that
I'm really drained today because I've been running around submitting paperwork to take money out of
yeah.
super, going to the voice surgeon, chasing up things, and now I can sit here and go, and then I thought, oh, and
Yeah,
just
yeah.
sitting down today trying to work out my budget, pay my bills, and just day-to-day stuff. Normal people go to
Because that's the
church.
other thing, there's real life behind all the
Right.
other, you're doing all of this this affirming surgery, and you're trying to find your best self in all of it, but there's still real life underneath all of that. You still have to
That's
go to a freaking day job. You still have to
exactly.
pay your bills and feed yourself and, you
Yeah,
know, live
exactly.
live your life.
Mm, exactly.
Yeah. What a juggling act. What a
Yeah, no,
juggling act. Yeah. Well, Melissa, it's been an absolute pleasure speaking to you. I want everybody to go by melissagriffiths.com.au. Have a look. Fo- I want people to follow you on Instagram because yours is probably the only story where I've seen someone be as raw and honest
yeah,
and open about everything that you're doing.
I share the good stuff and the bad stuff, and there's a lot of gal pal groups like Geelong Gal Pals and other Melbourne gals groups. I share my story on Facebook. I created the real Melissa Griffiths and Melissa Griffiths transgender supermodel advice page years ago because Facebook used to block me when I shared articles about trans stuff, but they didn't block me on those pages. And now, funnily, when I Google my name, that one I created years ago is on the first page, which is quite funny. So
It
I
shows
do get
up.
it. I do get a lot of hate emojis on that page sometimes because there's people
Do
from
you?
overseas. Yeah. Oh, because you.
Just tell them
Oh,
to piss
oh
off.
yeah. You're a man, dude, or you look like a man, sort of thing. But that's fine. Like
Okay,
it's sort
thank
of,
you.
I've learned, even though we don't like Donald Trump, I take his attitude. Any publicity is good publicity. So
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I like that. I do. I enjoy that. Like I said, I've been looking. I do follow. I don't spend a lot of time on there. I like to go on and I schedule
that's a good
posts
idea.
and stuff like that. Yeah, but
That's a
when
good
I
idea.
go on there, I'm just like, oh, I'll quickly have a look through. So it'll be like 1 day or 2 days of the week, everybody will start getting their likes from me. they'll start they'll start getting all the like. Twitter is a little bit. I'm a little bit more active there,
Yeah.
and the only reason that I'm more active there is because I use that as a communication tool with
Mm.
family. So that's Facebook is becoming, a little bit. It's dying a little bit.
Still got a good following
But
on there, though.
I'm getting there. It's new for me. So actually, if anybody is listening and they want to have a look, my TikTok and Instagram is at gonna be Jesse, and you can find me everywhere else from there. Um, Melissa, it's been an absolute pleasure speaking to you. Thank you so much for joining us. And as you do more, I'll be following. So as you do more, I think I'll invite you back and you can share more
Yeah.
of the story.
Yep. Beautiful.
I would
Thanks for
enjoy
having
that.
me,
Thanks.
Jesse.
My pleasure. Thank you so much for joining us. Thanks, everybody. Don't forget to like and subscribe and join us again for another episode of Utterly Unscripted.